In today's economy, more people than ever are looking to buy and sell businesses. But how do you do it? Welcome to the Deal Board, presented by Transworld Business Advisors. Straight talk about real deals and real people. Listen to stories, interviews, and expert advice to help your business sale, merger, or acquisition process. Now, here are your business exit experts, Andy and JT.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are back with the Deal Board podcast, and we are talking about what makes buyers walk away from a deal, even if the numbers are good.
Wow, you mean that could actually happen? People could be like, that's an amazing business. Look at those numbers, but I'm not going to buy that one. Wow. Like, what would be some of the reasons there? And I think we've got 5. We're talking about the business feels too dependent on the owner. Maybe there's not a good future opportunity that the buyer is seeing that's not clear anyway. Maybe they got operational risks that start showing up. Seller behavior might create some uncertainty. Got to be careful of that one too. Or, hey, sometimes the deal doesn't fit the personal goals of that buyer. That might change. Maybe their goals changed, or maybe what they find out about the business, there's not complete alignment there. But that's okay. If you're a buyer, we still have other businesses that you may want to take a look at. So let's dive in to those items that might make a buyer walk away. How about number 1, the business feels too dependent on the owner? We've talked about this in previous episodes too.
Yeah, we have talked about it. And, you know, especially with key customer relationship and daily operations, whatever it is with that business owner, we were selling a public relations firm. And, specifically, this person was known in the industry as an expert in the senior healthcare industry, helping promote those homes and those ACLFs and all those things. And, she really can't sell that business. She's known in the industry. She gives speeches, and she's never transferred that knowledge to anybody underneath her. And it has made that business basically almost unsellable.
That's a disaster. That's not good. And that was not intentional. In fact, I know we talked about this earlier. It's not a badge of honor to wear like, I'm the big cheese. No, you don't want to be the big cheese. You can be cheese and crackers, but you're going to need some other people on that team that's going to make it easier for that new person coming in to not see that the business is dependent completely on you. No solopreneur here. Make sure there's lots of people that you're spreading that through. Well, that takes us to number 2, baby. The buyer might not see the growth. Okay, the opportunity. Maybe there's not history that shows that it's a steady grow. And we have to be careful as a seller. Don't take your foot off the gas because, now my business is for sale and I'm just going to sit back and wait. That's the worst mistake you can make. The buyer needs to see steady growth, a growth story, and or a future opportunity.
Yeah, we had this big warehouse for sale. They sold basically tourist tchotchkes. I can't even say the word, but all these little tourist things for Florida, right? And they were distributing it to all the little stores on the beach and, where all the cruise passenger goes to buy little Florida keychains or whatever. And it was in a 20,000 square foot warehouse, packed to the gills, right up to the ceiling. And they just maxed out on growth. They could not fit another thing in there. They really had to move. I mean, it was like almost a fire hazard. So the first thing a buyer was going to have to do was come in and move that business. And we just knew that, the value of that business had no future. So
that's going to be tough. Yeah. So you've taken it to the top of the plateau, of the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Wow. Literally. It's interesting, and one of the things that we always see is that, and this is like the irony in this deal, is that buyers aren't only looking at what the business has done. They're looking for that growth opportunity, right? But a seller wants to be able to then say, well, let me price it based on the fact of what they could do. So the buyer wants to buy for growth opportunity, but the difference is they don't want to pay for growth opportunity. They won't pay. No, they're going to pay on what you've done and what they can do with it down the road. If there's some runway, there's not a warehouse full of tchotchkes. That is a word, by the way, and I'm thankful for that you using it. I haven't heard that word since my grandmother passed years ago.
Right. So the next thing the next thing is we're going to talk about a listing of the week, right?
Nice catch. Yes, exactly. Good. Well, now that Grandma's got her tchotchkes online, let's see if there's a listing of the week that's available that maybe has tchotchkes for sale too.
Yes. some good ones.
We'll be right back.
Transworld Business Advisors is the world's largest business brokerage and mergers and acquisitions firm with over 1,000 brokers and nearly 250 offices worldwide. Transworld's team handles thousands of business sales every year. To be connected with a qualified business broker or learn more about the buying and selling process, visit tworld.com or call 800-205-7605.
Do you know what time it is?
Money time?
Almost. It's time for listing of the week.
Hey everybody, it's JT here again with Transworld Business Advisors right here in Greater Cincinnati in Northern Kentucky, serving up some really good deals for you today. We've got an established textile rental and sales company that's been serving commercial clients for well over 20 years. From healthcare and hospitality and schools, wellness centers, and other professional organizations, they've built lasting relationships by doing exactly what they promise and doing it really, really well. This business has earned its reputation by delivering dependable service and building lasting customer relationships. With experienced employees, proven systems, and loyal customer base, a new owner can step in and build upon that really strong foundation. With opportunities to expand into new markets or add services, there's also plenty of room for future growth. If you're looking for a stable, service-oriented business with predictable revenue and an excellent reputation, this opportunity deserves a really close look. So to learn more, review the financials, and ask some questions, find this opportunity on our website, reach out to us directly, and we will get you all the information you need for this great opportunity. Thanks.
All right, there you go. What an amazing listing of the week. So grateful to hear what our Transworld offices are doing all across the country and around the world. And that's a good opportunity for you as a buyer. So, all right, let's look at number 3, the operational risks. When they start showing up, what happens from a buyer's perspective?
Yeah, the buyers get spooked, right? All of a sudden they're diving into the business. The numbers are perfect, but then they're looking at the operational risk of what it's going to take to keep that going. You know, I always think of like the guy who spins the plates on the poles, you know, like all of a sudden an owner is running around and they've got all these plates on the poles and they're able to keep them spinning. And what the buyer sees is like, hey, that plate falls off the thing and they're all going to fall. And so, right. Everything is in this seller's head. There's nothing, there's no process. I think we talked about this in a previous episode. I mean, just, then they look at the key employees and there's these key employees that have been there for 20 years. And, oh yeah, that person, they're the only one that could make the special sauce for the, for our number one item on our menu. I mean, whatever it is.
They're 73 years old and their spouse just passed away and all their kids have left for college. You're like, I don't know if that person's going to stay or not. Yeah, that's not necessarily reinforcing a positive message. Okay.
Yeah. Is
the technology outdated? Like, are there things that I'm going to automatically going to have to come in here and upgrade right away? That's not as an opportunity. That's going to be a capital expense that I'm going to incur because you never did it, Mr. Seller. So that could make that buyer pause just a little bit.
Yeah, it's all these risks that show up all of a sudden and they freak out. So that is not something that's good. And then during due diligence, say the business is perfect, but all of a sudden they're in due diligence, they're going through the process, and the seller, all of a sudden they realize that the seller's not all there, or the seller's not being responsive or
the behavior's off a little bit. Something's when they start to feel like something's off, then it's usually because it is. And the role of the advisor is to make sure, Mr. Seller, you need to be forthright. You need to be upright and honest and integrity. This is like disclosure, right? Same thing that happens in real estate. If we know something, we got to say it. So let's not find out about it later on. And realistically, Andy, I think if you do a good job with the seller up front, you're getting all that information and you know when to be able to present it, as opposed to the seller sometimes holds it back even from the advisor and then starts behaving a little squirrely. That's not going to be good.
Yeah, we've had some sellers that are their own worst enemy. And, they're type A people, they're caustic, abrasive, maybe they've gotten sick and tired of the business. And, we just need to keep them out of the deal as much as possible. Or they're super aggressive. They've been a negotiator for many times. We talk about this all the time that buyers don't love to negotiate anymore, and the sellers are
Nope.
so used to it that they keep wanting to renegotiate the deal
One
and
more
get
thing.
more.
One more thing. One more thing. That's going to hurt it. That's going
Yeah,
to
that's going to
changing
kill the deal.
details is going to damage trust. And remember, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, once the transaction is completed, there's this training and transition period that has to happen. You still got to work together. So keep that in the back of your mind. We don't want to erode trust because that's going to be paramount to making sure that this transition takes place smoothly. Yeah.
And then sometimes the buyers get cold feet. The
Yeah.
buyers all of a sudden realize that this is more than they and that's why we don't love buyers going in there and doing training periods before the deal closes because listen, every buyer, and I've talked to buyers after they bought the business, I don't like to go in there 2 weeks after they bought the business because they're still overwhelmed and they found all these bad things, or they think they found all these bad things. I like to show up 6 months later and they welcome me and they're, oh my God, you should have seen this place. We had to clean this up. We had to clean that up. And look what we've done with it over the last 6 months. And they're so proud of what they've done. So I would just say as a buyer, they do have, they get scared, they have remorse, but they start realizing that this is real work. And we had that happen recently. We sold a very popular restaurant. He upgraded the systems in there. He put a new POS system. He started taking credit cards. He started doing DoorDash. He raised sales by over 50% in a couple of weeks. But you know what goes up when sales go up 50%? The work. So it was crazy.
Yeah, so you were saying that work goes up. The volume goes up, work goes up. He didn't burn his people out too quickly then. We got to hire more people. Yeah. Well, that's what happens. Buyers, they realize the commitment's bigger than they thought it was going to be. Financing has changed. Maybe there's some personal things that have happened, family priority shift, whatever. Or another opportunity comes along that's a better fit, which is why, as an agent and an advisor, when you're dealing with a seller and a buyer, you want to get a commitment in the form of an asset purchase agreement, not just an LOI, because they're looking at 5 or 6 other things. Something else has a shinier nickel, and all of a sudden they're going that way. No. We want an offer with an escrow deposit. Let's work towards getting to close. And that's how you get to the last thing of the episode today, Andy, which is a deal of the week.
Hey, Andy, do you know what time it is?
What time?
It's time for Deal of the Week.
Ring the bell.
Hey everyone, Colton here from the Transworld Home Office, and I'm here with Taslim from our Detroit South office, and she has a new deal to share. Can you tell us a little about this deal, Taslim?
Hey, Colton, thanks so much. Yeah, so this was a really exciting 24-year-old legacy laundromat that I had available in Wayne County. Originally had it listed around November and just getting now to the closing coming up to June. So it definitely was a little bit of a lengthier one. And I think, anybody kind of knowing about the laundromat world know that these type of deals can be a little bit more difficult. And I'd say even regardless of that, the biggest hurdle here was kind of dealing with the emotional transition, right? This was, of course, the family's baby, as it always is. And, so we really had to bridge the gap between, their legacy and the buyer's expectations. So great deal, great buyer, and seller buyer was super excited looking into this. And he actually had his first interest in November. So he's kind of been in it for the long run with us this time. And it was really, really cool to see that play out.
Awesome. Any new things that you learned, anything that you haven't experienced yet in this industry that was something new in this deal, or is it pretty straightforward for you?
Yeah, I definitely learned quite a bit from this one. I think I learned that, I think we always know that, people's expectations need to be managed. But just in the way that you see that play out is always interesting. We had a really, really good offer the first couple weeks of listing this. And unfortunately, the sellers were not open to creative financing. They weren't open to seller financing. They wanted the entire thing upfront in cash. And so that became a major hurdle. And, I think my family heard me just on the phone kind of trying to, hype this deal up, multiple times a day, just trying to kind of, get past that elephant in the room that, you need to have this cash kind of on hand.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to share the deal. Excited for you. And now back to you guys with Deal Board.
So next time, tune in for Transworld Business Advisors Deal Board Podcast. I'm JT Jim Tatum. This is my co-host, Andy Cagnetta. And we're grateful that we continue to get to do good deals for good people.
Thanks for tuning in to the show today. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends on social media. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. If you have questions, would like to appear, or have suggestions for topics for the show, get in contact with us through our website, thedealboardpodcast.com.